Okay, let's see. I think I'm live. We haven't been live in a while, so this is a brand new session for me. Jeez, it's been 8 months, maybe longer. So I'm here answering questions. So if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm gonna let it run for a little bit before I actually start answering questions. But one of the things that I want to get across is these live sessions are really a result of like, hey, I just need to chat with you guys a lot more. And this would be a great way to do it. Hey, Patrick, I'm doing well. Thanks for the question. How are you doing? Mo, I think that's how you'd pronounce your name. Hi, how's it going? Hey, Tala. Hi, what's up? I think I want to start doing more of these live things. I'm really thinking it would be a good idea to do some of my live recording, and then being like part of the lesson being the first part where I sort of ignore questions, and then that's going to be what's going to be posted to the main channel, and then answer questions after we do that main part. What do you guys think about that? Let me know. Mert, are you going to be recording video for Django Cassandra integration without third party? I actually haven't used Django Cassandra, so I have to look into that more. Honestly, I don't get that asked a whole lot. So if it's going to happen, it's going to be something later, I think. But if people really want to see it, I actually don't know why or what Django Cassandra is, to be honest, because I haven't ever needed to use it and I've never had anyone ask about it. So let me know more, and then maybe I can check it out and see if it's worth looking into and doing some sort of integration. I'm assuming Cassandra is something different. So Fawad, is that your name? Sorry if I mispronounce your names, guys. I'm not great with pronunciation, so hopefully I don't offend you with that. That's definitely not my intention. Thank you for the nice compliment. Programmer, hi. My Elon Musk video was great. Thank you. It was just a fun little tribute video. I think Elon's like such an inspiration for so many of us. Of course, he's not perfect. Like nobody's perfect, but just the things that he's been able to accomplish are just like, wow, I want to do more with myself. You know what I mean? Anyways, Tala, great, cool. I'm glad I got it correct. Good to hear, Patrick. I'm glad. Tala, I'm a big fan of you too. Thank you for saying that. Mert, you as well. Abdulaziz, is that your name? Hi from Saudi Arabia. I have never been, but hello from California. It is on fire here right now. It's crazy. This has been an interesting year, I'll say that much. Tala, you're from Pakistan. Great. I've spoken to a number of people from Pakistan as well as Saudi Arabia. So I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad that my e-commerce course was helpful. So I'm here to answer your questions. So if you have questions about anything, pretty much, just let me know and I will do my best to answer them. That's kind of the reason I'm doing this live stream right now. And I'm totally doing it on a whim because it's like I haven't done this in a really long time. So it's why I'm here. Okay, cool. So Naduka, you want more on Django and React. Me too. I think we all do. React is awesome. Like I really, really enjoy working with React. I've heard great things about Vue. I just really haven't given it enough of a shot because I like React so much. A long time ago I was using Angular and I felt the same way about Angular. But Angular is a lot more of an application than React. React is like you can just make the smallest elements, which is what I liked about jQuery in the first place a long time ago. But React, I think, is definitely my go-to. And like I said, Vue is probably a good choice for that too. Oh yeah, Cassandra's being a NoSQL database. Yes. So MongoDB is like the first thing that has support for Django. It's kind of strange because NoSQL and using Django doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me because you don't need some of the great features and models with Django for NoSQL databases, which is why I just don't cover it a whole lot, because NoSQL is just a lot different of a system. But if you're interested in NoSQL and Django, check out a system called Django. That's Django with an O in the middle instead of an A. That one's really, really cool. Let's see here. Wagtail CMS. I do not like Wagtail. I don't think, like, I mean, I'm sure people like it. I think people enjoy it. But really, if you're doing Django, you shouldn't necessarily need a CMS. And if you need a CMS and you want to build on top of it, WordPress is like the thing to do. Like, why would you do anything different? Because WordPress has an API built in there, and you could totally integrate WordPress with Django. It's just a lot of work. But I don't see why you would use Wagtail personally. I've never been convinced otherwise if you're using a CMS. If you're just doing it to learn about CMSs, then just build a CMS out of Django from scratch. That's what I think. I have a lot of videos on how to deploy a Django application. Just check my YouTube channel, Vihesh, I think that's your name. Big luck. You're from France. You're a young dev, and you like my channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Man, I wish I was started developing at 17. I didn't really start getting into it until I was like, what, 22, 23. I did some website design when I was about 16, 17 years old, but I didn't do the back end stuff, the really, really cool stuff that's out today. A big part of it was because it wasn't that available like it is today, but really it's like there was plenty available. There's plenty of books. It's like you just need to make the decision and go for it. So it's so awesome to see you going for that. Big luck. I have enjoyed my time in France. I fell in love with my wife there, who was my girlfriend at the time, but is now my wife. So big love for France. Thanks so much for that. Not that you did anything, but you know, whatever. Okay, so let's see. What's the best way for permission check on 3 groups of users in a Django project? Well, you can add permissions directly to each user group. So that's actually pretty simple. I think the documentation does a really good job from that. Darlington? I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name. It's like, maybe it's French? I don't know. From Nigeria, nice to meet you. But it looks like your channel name is Emmanuel. Francisco, I love your Python tutorials. Thank you so much. Vinesh, I definitely have videos on Heroku deployment with Django. There's a number of them. Check out my channel. Francisco, I have a question, but I do not understand. Or I did fix it. I didn't understand. Django serializers. I'm not sure your question, Francisco. Can you rephrase it? Naduka asks, do I prefer Firebase or Django? Well, I like Django because you have control over it, right? So whenever you're using somebody's built-in platform or service, you sacrifice a number of things for control. So handing it over to somebody else is not it's just not my preferred method of doing things. And realistically, I haven't used Firebase enough to give a full-on comparison. Firebase is really good and it is powerful, but I just don't use it that much. So yeah. Hi, Justin. You never finished your chat app about personal messages. My chat app about personal messages. I'm not sure which one you're referring to because I have a number of chat apps. Channels 2, a video that I released on Django Channels 2, is something I definitely have. I also have a course on it. If you're talking about direct messages, it's on our website. It'll be finished soon. It's just not quite done yet. But the vast majority of the personal one-on-one communication is across both of those things. So check it out. Let's see. How do you start programming Android with AI apps? This is a good question. So programming on Android, I would recommend that you use React Native. React Native is React, like React.js. So it has a lot of the things that are going for React.js, but it can be compiled into a Android application or an iOS application. And then from there, you might want to use something like Onyx. Onyx is it basically turns any machine learning model from any framework into something you can run using JavaScript or many other Onyx interpreters. So let's say, for instance, you're using TensorFlow and you need that in an Android application. You can turn your TensorFlow model into an Onyx model and then deploy that on your Android. The reason for that is then if you switch to PyTorch or Keras or any new programming language or machine learning framework, you can most likely export that into an Onyx model, which is pretty cool. Big luck. Oh, man, this scrolling thing. Whenever I scroll the live chat, it just goes way too fast. So I'm probably not going to be able to catch up to everything. What do I think about Ajax.js? I'm not familiar with Ajax.js, but Ajax as a concept is asynchronous JavaScript requests. It's very, very common, and it's a great, great thing to learn about and do. Marco just mentioned about React Native. Absolutely, totally going to do a React Native course at some point. It's just there's just so much to cover and not enough time to do it. That's really what it comes down to. Hi, Dimitri Illis, I guess. Hello, what's up? Fawad, what's the best way to show a client a view based on user role and URL path, like with admin permission? I'm not really sure what you're trying to say here. Client based on a user's role? Like, how do you change the view that they get based on their role? That's actually pretty simple. As long as the user's authenticated, or even if they're not, you can absolutely return different kinds of renders and templates based on who the user is. Marco, greetings from Italy. Thanks, Marco. Great to hear from you. Where in Italy are you from? I really enjoy Italy, and I have a good friend who lives in Cremona, and I've visited him a few times. Hopefully you guys are recovered now from all the lockdown madness. I'm actually not sure. I haven't caught up with him in a little bit, but hopefully you're safe and everyone you know is. That's true for all of us, right? Like, this has been one heck of a year. All right, so do I have any production ready specific guides? Yes, check out cfe.sh/posts and you'll see a number of guides for production ready Django. The one I would start with is staging Django for production, because it's nice to know how to actually handle those settings modules. Okay, so next question. How do I schedule Selenium scripts? Cron jobs don't work because Chrome somehow needs to be started. Cron jobs should work running a Python application. I really like Celery, but it would require you to have a Celery worker running all the time, and most likely Redis. So cron jobs should absolutely work. It's just maybe your paths inside of your Python application aren't correct. That's possible. And for those of you who don't know what a cron job is, it's essentially a scheduler that you can add on your computer that will trigger something, right? So it can be any sort of script or automation that you might want to use. And then Celery is a Python application that does very similar things. It's just all handled through Python, not through cron. And Celery can also do cron-like features as well, which is also really cool. Let's see, next thing. Do you think knowing JavaScript and React and Python and Django is good enough to get a first job? So the question is, knowing any programming language, is that good enough for a first job? Well, it depends on how deep you know that, right? And if you know it really well and you can build something in it, then yeah, it should be good enough to get a first job. Now, is it going to be a $200,000 a year job? Well, probably not. Is it going to be a $5,000 a year job? Definitely not, right? So where you fall in there is going to really be how you can prove how well you know these things. So JavaScript and React, if you know that really well, there are definitely JavaScript React developers. That's all they do. They don't do anything in the back end. And that's also true for Python and Django developers that only work on the back end and don't do anything on the front end. So you totally can get a job by knowing those things, but it depends on how well you know them. Fode from Netherlands. Love what you do. Thank you so much, Fode. I love the Netherlands. It's great. I spent, I think, about 2 weeks in Amsterdam a few years back, and it was a lot of fun just to hang out there and see your city, or that city. I'm sorry, I don't know if you're actually from there, but Netherlands is great. People are super friendly, and I love how much the bikes are everywhere. So cool. Tiny Finn, hello from India. Hello from California. Thank you for being here. Next question. This is a good question. Is Django too big for small projects? Well, it actually depends on what features you need out of the gate, right? So if you need a bunch of user-based features, Django's is perfect for that. It has a lot of built-in features for that, so authentication and all that. Now, you totally can use Flask for authentication, absolutely, but you have to handle all of the security for it. So you have to actually bring in a bunch of things that Django has by default. So I don't think Django or Flask are too big or too small for either problem. It's really just what is the problem you're trying to solve and how can you do it in the most effective way, right? So if you know Flask unbelievably well, you probably won't just jump into Django because you could just use Django or Flask to solve all the problems you need to solve. Whereas Django, I know it really well. I know it better than Flask. I can build a small app in Django and do it much faster than I could in Flask. But I use Flask all the time for little projects because not every project needs a database. Not every project needs users and a lot of the things that are built into Django. Next question, any recommendations for email verification module for new users? Yeah, Django AllAuth is fantastic for that. You just need to have some sort of email or transactional email service like SendGrid. SendGrid is amazing. Just use SendGrid. I mean, there are other things you could do, but SendGrid's at it. The Mern stack or Django? Mern? I'm not familiar with Mern. Is it the stack? I'd have to guess what that is. I don't know what it is. I mean, since I don't know what it is, definitely Django. Thanks, Ankur, for that question. Whoa, man, that scrolling thing. Okay, so let's scroll back up a little bit. Here we go. Yeah, Will says knowing any of these really well would get you first shop. Totally agree with you, Will. Absolutely. Knowing any sort of Django or JavaScript, Python, like there are people that only work in Python, right? They don't touch the web at all. Those people definitely have jobs, and some of them get paid really, really well, right? So you just need to find what your niche is, what you're good at, and make a bunch of projects for it. Put it on GitHub. Like the more projects you have on GitHub, the more likely you will be to get hired, whether that's for a full-time job or a long-term job or by an investor to build in your project, or, whatever it is. Getting hired in this sense is like saying, hey, yeah, I pick you. You're great. So let's do this, right? So like, I mean, signing up for courses, it's all the same, You just need to convince people that you know what you're doing, and that is how you build confidence in your own skills, but then also land the jobs that you need to land. Marcio from Angola, nice to meet you. You're studying Python. You want to know when you study Django or other, when to know that you can study Django or other Python frameworks and libraries. I'm not sure what your question is. Maybe I'm guessing that you're saying when should you start studying Django? You should start studying whatever you're interested in right now. So if you're interested in Django, go dabble in it and see how far that interest takes you. Sometimes you need to leave something that you're interested in because maybe you hit some roadblocks in it and you want to come back at a later date. I do that all the time, right? So like this book right here, Deep Learning, amazing book. It's not too challenging, but it's incredibly challenging to really fully understand that. So hang on one second. Oh, I don't have it down here. So I bought a linear algebra book to refresh all of my linear algebra so I can do deep learning better. But I'm not spending all my time on it. It's just something I'm interested in. So if you find something you're interested in, just go for it. Do it as far as you can until maybe it turns into a career or something more. That's kind of the point. Let's see. Next thing. How to use Google Drive instead of AWS as media storage in Django. You cannot use Google Drive for your static files or your media files for production level use, right? So you can absolutely store things in Google Drive on Django, but you definitely cannot use it as your static file system. So Google Cloud Storage does offer this. It's definitely a replacement for AWS S3. So just check that out. Google Cloud Storage is great. I really like Google Cloud Storage, and I've used it in a number of projects. So check that out. Next thing is, what's the best way to use Selenium in a web that changes a lot? On a website that changes a lot? So what's the best way to scrape a website that changes a lot? Well, really, in my opinion, is just to scrape the website and then store what you scrape. So get the entire page, store what you scrape, and then parse it later. that is if that's what you're trying to do. If you're trying to automate tasks and stuff like that, it's significantly more challenging. Django versus Laravel. I don't use PHP, so I'm definitely gonna say Django there. The Django REST framework is fantastic. I don't know what you're asking me about. Electron is an amazing GUI system. What are the limitations of Django? Currently, Django is not fully async capable. Python 3.5 and above have been, but Django is not for a number of reasons. So that's one of the biggest limitations to it right now. But I think Django 3.2 is going to solve that. They're actively working on solving that, which is really exciting to see where that might end up going. But it might add a layer of complexity to building your applications, which I think is why they delayed it. I think they were originally going to release it at Django 3, but they delayed it to 3.2 or maybe even later than that, because it's just not that easy to do asynchronous programming, because there's just a number of factors that go into that, which I talk about in I think in my most recent 30 Days of Django or 30 Days of Python series. Yeah. Ewan, the year from hell to right. Yes, it has been. What are my opinions of Elasticsearch DSL over Adrian Search? I haven't used Adrian Search very much, so I don't have a strong opinion. Thanks for the question, though. Hey, man, I learned a lot from you. Looking to learn so much more. Thank you so much. I'm learning every day. It's like something that I think we all should be doing more of, and hopefully sharing what we learn. I do encourage you guys to help teach somebody else and put that on Medium as an article or make your own videos. I've had students in the past that went on and made their own YouTube channels that are doing phenomenal, not because of me, but because of them actively helping other students, which is so much fun to see and so cool. So I do hope that you do that as well. It's going to make you a much better programmer, because it's going to help you think clearly about what it is that you're trying to accomplish. What languages do you know and have used professionally? So I know English really well. I'm assuming that's not what you're asking. So JavaScript and Python are really the things that I know and use professionally. I have dabbled with many other things, but JavaScript and Python are the main ones. In that comes HTML, CSS, SQL, and I'm probably going blank on a few others, but the main thing is JavaScript and Python. That's what I know really well. And it really started with ActionScript, which was Flash. And I didn't realize I was programming. I thought I was making cool little interactive movies, but it turned out that I was actually programming back then. So this was like, I don't know, 15 years ago, but I didn't ever consider it as programming. And really it was just scratching the surface of it. So I used to know that one too. And I actually did that professionally. I got hired a number of times to build Flask, sort of like websites and even tutoring in Flask and stuff not Flask, Flash. Yes. Hey Django, what about Django? What's the best way to set up a company account in a Django website to make the product a scalable website for companies to sign up? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, Mo. I think you're saying, how do you actually have like different user types, one being a company account that has maybe sub accounts in there. There's a number of ways to go about doing this. The biggest way is to just make a company like model and then have users that can be attached to it. That's kind of the easiest to me. Can I make a tutorial on Django? Maybe at some point I will, but I haven't had a real need for it just yet. So yeah. Marco, you're in Northern Italy. Got it. Genoa? I don't think I've been there, but thanks for telling me. That's cool. Mao, you are an amazing person. Thank you. Let's see here. The live chat scrolling is not going. You know, what'd be really cool is to have some sort of AI that's going and clarifying questions that might be hard to understand, and then also asking me those questions. So I mean, you've seen this with like other like live streaming teachers or something, like where they have somebody reading the questions to them and then they just answer them. I want that as an AI. What do you guys think? And actually, does anyone know of a live polling system where I can actually add a live poll so I can get direct feedback there? I don't think you can do it on YouTube. I mean, sure, I could put a link on there, but I would definitely love to check that out. So let me know if you see one at all, because it'd be cool to see. Whoa. Okay. So I just got bombarded with the same question over and over again. Maybe it's my live stream thing not working. Just give me 1 second. Hopefully it's still going. I just refreshed my live stream handler account. I think it's still going. It looks like it's still going. So just give me a second here for this. Cool. So I missed a bunch of questions. Sorry about that. Let's go back. Live poll Slido. Thank you, general public. Appreciate the response. You use it all the time in your boot camp. What boot camp is that? I'm curious. Should you know data structures to use Django effectively? You do not need to know data structures to use Django effectively. You can, and you might want to. So check it out. Okay, so next thing. Where did it go? Man, this live chat thing. Okay, so I need to know of another way to like read these live stream questions. Do you guys have any recommendations for that? This has always been a problem with YouTube, and I think it's one of my most frustrating things is live chat. It just, you scroll just a little bit and then it goes all the way down, so I miss a bunch of questions. Okay, so can't you do a poll on the community tab? Yes, you absolutely can, and I have. Are you doing anything with blockchain development? No, I do find it pretty interesting. Blockchain is a very interesting concept. I just haven't spent enough time with it to really benefit from it. And realistically, I just don't have pressing applications to use right now for blockchain. Maybe I'm missing something about what would be really good to build right now, aside from like some sort of cryptocurrency or having a course on that. I just don't know what I would build with a blockchain. So yeah, that's why I haven't really done much. You've started your career from my channel. Oh, wow. How cool is that? And now capable to earn some handsome money. Oh, wow. Cool. Dell Latitude. That's great to hear. Thanks for sharing. I think I need to send out a poll or a survey of some kind, hearing from students just like you. I'm really curious as to what people have done with some of the things I've taught about, which is cool. Gambo Master, you didn't upload any videos for almost 2 months. What went wrong? Actually, it was longer than that. I oscillate between recording content and researching content. Sometimes I spend a lot more time researching than recording. And the early part of this year, my daughter, who just turned 1, was really not sleeping a whole lot. So my wife and I were really not sleeping a whole lot. And to record, you need to have a really solid performance, or at least that's what I try to do every time I have one. So it was a combination of things. I was incredibly tired, which is probably a terrible excuse to come up with, but I was incredibly tired, and I was doing a lot of research at the time because I don't love doing the same thing over and over again, right? So like a number of people have asked me, when are you going to update the e-commerce course? And it's coming soon. I'm actually going to do it now. But for a long time, I was like, there's no real reason for me to update it. And I still sort of feel that way, but we've moved far enough in the future that I just needed to spend enough time researching the latest trends on things, and also really a need to produce more content. So yeah, I have been always producing content on codingforentrepreneurs.com. It just, you know, you get into these phases of life where you don't just want to record the same thing over and over again. And I do get these questions a lot where it's like, hey, how do you do X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, oh, go try Django 1.10. And they're like, well, it's in Django 1.10. Well, yeah, Django 1.10 is not that much different than Django 3.1. There are differences for sure, but when you're trying to learn something, there is practically no difference. if you stick with that version. At least that's my opinion. There's a lot of teachers that are like, no way, use the latest version, the most recent support, and I totally get the argument for both. So that was a long-winded answer for what you asked. Hopefully it answered your questions. General public, it's spam. Yeah, it seemed like it. Hopefully somebody spammed it out. Looks like the spam stopped, which is great. Marvin, you loved my Python 30-day challenge. Thank you. There's still a couple days left. I'm just really not sure where to take it. So let me know if you want, or what you want to see from 2 days left and 30 days of Python that are really just Python specific, that don't require Django or JavaScript or CSS or anything like that, but really just Python specific. I would love to check that out. Let's see. And the scroll happened again. Okay, can you do a series on Spark using Python? I actually haven't done Spark, but thanks for the suggestion. I'll have to check it out. Node.js versus Django, what are the trade-offs? So Node.js is fantastic for backend, but it's not a full-on backend framework like Django is. So Node.js itself, they have backend frameworks in Node.js. Like the name of one is eluding me right now. But they do a lot of the same things. The comparison's probably better Node.js and something like Flask, or Node.js and Fast API, because those ones don't really have a lot of things out of the box. You actually have to add in a lot of those. So I actually kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier, Django versus Flask conversation. So definitely check that out. Do I think NoSQL is a good solution, good database solution? Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very flexible, unlike SQL. SQL is not nearly as flexible, so NoSQL is great for that. Oh, thanks for the live chat, Heriberto. I will get to your questions in just a second. But NoSQL and SQL are definitely different. NoSQL just allows you to have a lot of flexibility. It just, Django really shines when it uses a SQL database. That's like something I come across a lot, as I mentioned earlier. Alberto, you just graduated from industrial engineering and you wanted to dedicate yourself to data analysis. Which of your projects do you recommend? You're going to purchase the $99 offer. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate the question. So you just graduated and you want to do data analysis. Honestly, I would start with 30 days of Python. And that one will give you a lot of the underlying foundation to scraping and collecting data. And then from there, I would want to learn more about Python pandas, which is something I do intend to cover in the near future. And then you could always check out our Getting Started with Machine Learning or our Try Keras course to really hone like the usage of that data. But really with data analysis and data analytics, you just want to get as much data as possible, as soon as possible, so that in the future, once you actually know how to analyze that data better, you can go back to that data. So hopefully that answers your questions, Heriberto. Hopefully I answered that for you and I pronounced your name correctly. Okay, so back to the live chat. Can you suggest some good resources for someone starting with NLP and Python, as well as learning the Python or the learning path involved? NLP stands for natural language processing. So what this means is like looking at a sentence and trying to understand maybe like its sentiment, right? So if it's a positive or negative. So same as what I said to Alberto, you're going to want to start to gather data sets related to what you're trying to understand. That to me is the easiest way to get going. And then you can look at a couple different programs. One is the Fast.ai system. Fast.ai has a course and a library that's really good, and you can use it to do NLP. You can also use something called Spacey. I'm actually going to type it in the chat. I guess I should be doing that a little bit more. But Spacey is another one that really is nice for NLP. And Rasa's another one. Rasa actually has a number of tutorials online that you can learn to use their tool to do some NLP and even building chatbots and stuff like that. So hopefully that helps. I know I've done stuff in the past related to NLP as well. I think my machine learning course covers some NLP in there, but that is hopefully a good enough advice for you to get started there. can I make a PyQt5 app? I'm not intending to do anything GUI related with just Python. I don't think Python handles the front end very well. There's very few applications. Actually, I should say I've never seen a Python GUI or graphical user interface that is great. Like I've never seen one that's like, wow, this is amazing. And what I mean by amazing is like Slack. Slack's an amazing front end GUI, right? As well as a back end. And that's all through Electron, which is all JavaScript. Now you can build something, you can build a GUI with a Python backend, but the front end I think should be JavaScript. So much, I mean, it's probably my own bias because of the web. You want to build things from the web. But I just haven't seen something that's a front end inside of Python that I'm just floored with. Kiwi is another one. It's like, okay, Kiwi's cool and stuff, but something that actually is very, very useful, I've just yet to see. So if you do see one, please let me know. I would love to check it out because I really want to have my opinion changed on that. Can I do Spark with Python, please? Thanks for the suggestion. Django scope in the future. I'm not sure what you mean by that, DK. Let's see, next one. I learned Django and React.js. I have a lot of projects, but I don't understand how to work real-time industry. Please give me tips on how I can start freelancing. Freelancing, well, you can go to the various websites to freelance, but build up your portfolio, make a bunch of projects and put them on GitHub. So even if it's a small project, but make something that's useful, you put it on GitHub. That way you can start to better understand the needs to create any given project. So in other words, make yourself your own client, right? So if you're like, hey, I'm going to make a project. Well, what's the scope of that project and how do you actually go and make it? Go and make it and then put it online. That way you can start to understand what you need to ask to start freelancing. The other thing is look at actual job boards and see what they're hiring for and build a prototype and then pitch them that prototype and be like, hey, I built a very simple prototype based off of your business. I just made a bunch of assumptions and here's a prototype. What do you think? I would love to freelance with you guys, but I just want to make a prototype first. You always offer value up front to get the value later. It's really hard to just like come in and ask for a lot when you haven't proven everything that you know or can do for somebody or their team. Hopefully that helps. Let me just have a little coffee here. Lose my voice. For a guy that I talk for a living, I wonder if it's maybe that I just talk too fast. Like you see a lot of these like live streams or I've seen some where it's like they're quiet for a minute. And you're like, whoa, that is way too long. Anyways, okay. So back up. All right. Can I make a video on security for Django? Yeah, I've actually covered security in many forms for Django, but one dedicated to it is a good suggestion. Thank you for that. Can I whistle a song? Probably not. That is kind of a weird... Oh, hey, this is a live Q&A. You can ask whatever questions you want. I said that earlier. All right. What do you mean by Django scope in the future? Hey, I'm trying to get all these questions. Can you guys stop doing the little YouTube icon? That is kind of distracting. I don't know. Whatever. Keep doing it. I don't care. So let's see. Yeah, looks like we're not getting much more questions now. So it seems like those have slowed down a little bit. Let me know. Oh, here we go. What's the best tech stack to use for heavy data-oriented web application related to financial markets? What's the best tech stack for that? That's a good question. I mean, it's going to depend on so many factors, and a number that I think you'd probably want to have as much real-time stuff as possible. So Django channels is like an obvious choice for that, but maybe not even Django. Maybe something a little bit more flexible. Maybe something like Fast API. Fast API is a really great way to quickly model an API that is potentially in real time, or async IO. So it's a asynchronous web application. and that way it's able to do a lot of transactions quickly without too much overhead. So those are the things I look for. Hopefully that answers your questions. Deep, hello. What's up? Next question. Wow. Jeez. Spamming. A lot of spamming. That is weird. Bro, can you make a YouTube clone with Django? Yes, you can make a YouTube clone with Django. Totally. Wow, these questions are funny. Have you tried Dino? I have not tried Dino, and will it take over for Node? I don't know. We'll see. Definitely keep an eye on it. Let me know if you see a lot of traction. Have you looked at the Google Trends for Dino? Do I think Python is a good language for algorithms and data structures? Well, maybe, but I think Java really excels in those two areas. So maybe look at Java or a lower level language than Python, like C++ even. Okay, cool. Kunal, thank you for the response. Wow, PYQD. Okay. Well, I think that's going to do it, guys. Thanks for being here. If we have any last minute questions, I'll answer them. But the same question, copied and pasted over and over, is not something I intend to answer. So, yeah. Interesting. Can I make a 10 to 20 mini projects with Python and Django? That's interesting. All right, cool. Oh, one more question. Roberto, thank you for the super chat again. That's awesome. Thank you. Didn't realize I would get super chats at all. I just turned it on. YouTube kept bugging me to turn it on, so I turned it on. Thank you so much. All right, you already did the 28 days of supercharged web scraping and try Keras. Would it be the right path? Supercharged web scraping, absolutely. So that's going to really level up what you can do with web scraping. So definitely recommend that. And then try Keras, potentially that, or even getting started with machine learning. That project, those would be really good. And I'm happy to answer that question for you in the future if you need. But once you finish supercharged web scraping, you should have a really good solid foundation of how to actually do web scraping at a very high level. So once you have that, then moving into try Keras does make sense, or probably something with Python pandas to really know how to do the spreadsheets and big data analysis within Python, then moving into something like try Keras. Try Keras is for image classification, so it is very useful, and it hopefully gets you excited to do more in machine learning. But really, since you said a data analysis, learning more about pandas, whether it's from me or somebody else, doesn't really matter, but just learning more about pandas would be a good idea. Although I think doing 30 days of Python as well as supercharged web scraping, you'll get at least some knowledge using Python pandas as well. And even just our conversation right here is like, wow, I really need to get a pandas basics video out there, or even a full-on pandas tutorial to help this. So yeah, you want to be like me when you grow up? How old are you? I'm, despite what the bright light looks like, I'm not that old. I don't think. Maybe I am. I mean, I do have 2 kids, so I'm not that young either, I guess, huh? So yeah, thanks for that. I really appreciate it. But really, I think finding your own niche is the way to go, right? Like I have a lot of people I look up to and admire. Elon Musk is one of them, but I have no interest in being like Elon Musk. I mean, he's incredibly successful, but he also has had huge tolls for that. Oh, Dennis Ivy, look who it is. Hey man, how's it going? Thanks for joining. Are you the sole developer of Tide AI? Yes, I am. I definitely have used some resources in the past. So I was building out this whole other thing for Tide AI, really excited about it. But then it started adding all of these layers of complexity that I just didn't want to deal with, because as a system and just generally as a community, we just weren't ready there yet. So the Electron application that I created that's currently available absolutely was 100% built by me. So it combines Python, Node.js, and React.js for all that. Thanks for coming out, man. Love it. Dennis Ivey is another person you should definitely check out if you want to learn some more of Django and all sorts of other things. Dennis, what else do you cover? Let me know in the comments. I definitely think more people should learn about it, because you also have this experience where you actually took from a boss, if I remember correctly, you took from a boss and made an application specifically for them that they ended up buying for you, which I think is like unbelievable. So cool, because so many of us are in this position where we're working jobs and we're like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if X, Y, or Z existed? Dennis actually did that, sold his business for like 30 or 40,000, or the website for that, and really highlights the fact that you don't actually have to like really work too hard to find a lot of low-hanging fruit for automations and things that you can do for other people. It's usually when you're like trying to do it for yourself, you find something interesting. You're like, hey, I really want to build this. I did this with TidyEye. Hey, I really want to build this. I'm going to take all this time to do it. But if you don't have any customers or a customer, you're not going to get very far. Dennis took that idea and said, hey, my boss is going to be my customer, and I'm definitely going to make something that he or she needs. And he did. Like, and I think we could all do that. Even if you don't have a boss, you just go on somebody's website that is looking to hire a web developer of some kind and build them a prototype. Send it over to them. You'll get a lot of really good experience through that. Dennis uses React, but you mostly teach Django, JavaScript, Postgres. Yeah, totally. Cool, Dennis. Thanks, man. Good to have you here. Dennis, have you ever live streamed before? I don't know if you do. Sorry, man. I would totally watch your channel all the time if I could. And I mean that wholeheartedly. It's like awesome to see what other people are doing. Alberto, another super chat. Thanks, man. From Mexico. Thank you so much. Sorry, my Spanish is not great. And actually, so my younger brother is trying to master Spanish. We live in Southern California, so we have a lot of opportunities to speak Spanish for sure. But what is your recommendation for one to learn another language? Because you obviously speak English really, really well. So did you like come to the US or something like that? But thank you. Maybe I should do live Q&As more often for sure, because then I get to meet people like you. And so yeah, thanks for all the sharing. Let's see. Dennis, not that good on camera, at least live. I don't know, Dennis. Like you're selling yourself short there, bud. Like, and it's kind of weird to just talk. Like I'm literally just talking to myself, or at least that's how it feels. But I do that all the time anyway. Oh, Dennis with the live chat. Thank you, Dennis. Wow, maybe I should just hang on here for hours. This is gonna be good. I'm just kidding. I'm definitely not gonna do that. I do appreciate the live chats, guys, but Dennis, I really do think that doing live things, you're already recording all the time anyway, and if you rewind back to what I was doing here earlier, I mess up all the time. Like and I fumble over words, and really one of the things that I think is awesome with these live chats is sometimes you get called out or you get asked a question and you are just like dumbfounded, you don't know the answer, or better yet, you say something really dumb and you feel really dumb, but then you go home, you sit on it, or you just kind of wait, and then eventually you learn and you're like, okay, cool, I know that answer now. Thank you, random YouTuber. Thank you for highlighting the fact that I don't know whatever it is. So yeah. Plus, Dennis, people love you, man. They want to hear you talk. Anyways, okay, so how to master async await methods in web scraping. Reza, supercharged web scraping. That series that I created is specifically for that. Now, I think on day 28, I believe the most recent one I did was asynchronous web scraping in 30 days of Python. Maybe it was day 27. Check that out. That will give you like a highlight, or at least a starting place for understanding async and await. The supercharged web scraping though is far better. Yeah. So cool. Yeah, that's your fear, that somebody embarrassing you in front of everybody. Haha, Alberto, your mother's credit card is the one suffering. Love it. Moving to Mexico is the best option to learn Spanish. Yeah, I agree. Are Americans allowed in Mexico again? I actually don't know. I think we weren't for a while there because of the pandemic, right? So, but your mother's credit card, that's hilarious. Cool. Let's see. I'm learning JavaScript now. I just got done with the basics. Where to go from here? I want to learn mobile app development and also check backend as well. Cool. This is a good question. Okay, so you've learned JavaScript. You got some of the basics down. What would I do in that case? Well, I would absolutely do React.js or Vue.js. You might learn jQuery for like nostalgia purposes, but you shouldn't learn jQuery. It's like there's really no point anymore. If you know vanilla JavaScript, you can easily move into React.js, which is a nice transition that you could then use something like Django in the backend, or even Node.js in the backend. That's what I would do, because JavaScript is really cool. Sweet. Lardison, do I watch Corey? Corey Schaefer, I'm assuming you mean. Yeah, I've seen his from time to time. Dennis and I have just had more communication. Corey and I haven't. I don't think I've ever chatted with him at all. Not for any particular reason. I just haven't. The thing about YouTube is, like, I get recommended some of these other YouTubers, but I'm not actively watching Django and Python things on YouTube because I mean, I'm super interested in those things, but I don't need to watch those things, right? Like I'm learning from other sources. I'm learning directly from the source code or something like that. So when I see Corey Schaefer, the only reason I know of him is because I just randomly got suggested one of his videos, and that's it. And I watched a little bit of it, but I've heard a lot of people really like his stuff. He seems like a very straightforward, like down to earth kind of dude. So yeah, hopefully that answers your questions. I wish to see you make a tutorial on Django and Docker. I already have one. Check out the channel. Somewhere on the channel it's on there. Definitely there. Docker is really cool. I really wish that you could package up Docker into an executable and just share that. Right? That would be awesome. Somebody please make that, because then it just opens up this whole new world. Because something else that is also really cool. So if you like serverless means you just don't manage the backend infrastructure, but also many serverless applications just respond to requests, and that's only when they run, right? So that's really cool, both of those things. Now, Google has something called Google Cloud Run that allows you to deploy a Docker container as a serverless web application. So that means you only pay when it's run, and you could use Docker. AWS has Lambda. I think AWS has a Docker-like thing as well. AWS pioneered this Lambda idea where it responded to events, but Lambda is kind of a pain to set up, similar to py installer. That's kind of a pain. It's not as easy as Docker. Docker is incredibly easy, and so I'd love to build an executable. If somebody could come up with that, please let me know. I will be very happy if that's the case. Okay, cool. Yeah, Web2Py. I actually haven't used Web2Py, so that's something I don't know. Don't have that answer. Thanks for asking, though. Okay. Udemy is using Django with WordPress as their blog. I've seen many websites using that. Yeah, I think that happens from time to time. I mean, it makes sense that you, like, whenever you build a project, you should build something that just works as well as possible, right? That's it. Like, find what the requirements are and make it happen. And sometimes you need to challenge the assumption that X, Y, or Z can't do it, right? So the best example I can give is SpaceX, actually. So for a really long time, the vast majority of the world believed that no commercial entity would ever make orbit, let alone bring people to the space station, right? SpaceX found a way. They had an idea of what they wanted to do. They challenged all the assumptions, and then they did it. And they're going to go even further. I mean, I don't think anyone doubts that now. And now it's like, okay, yeah, cool. Well, whatever. Obviously they did it. But like, I mean, this was a long held convention that only like the United States or Russia or China or, you know, many other countries, only the country itself would be able to ever make it into orbit. And now a company can, and many more companies are on their way. So when it comes to building an application, any sort of application, yeah, I love Django, but Django's not the right solution for everything. And I always kind of challenge that notion. I mean, can it be done in Django? Maybe. Now, the reason I actually use Onyx now is because TensorFlow failed to work well in PyInstaller, but Onyx did not. Onyx was really small, very clean, very easy to turn my TensorFlow model into an Onyx model and then use it into PyInstaller. So boom, there we go. That's something I recommend that you do, is always challenge what it is that is set forth as the best solution. WordPress is not the best of the best of the best, right? But it has dominated for many reasons. One of them being it's incredibly easy to get started. And I think that's another thing, is a lot of developers, a lot of engineers like to prolong actually putting it into the hands of the public because they're afraid of what might happen to it. So instead of using the fastest solution, they use the most complicated one so that it takes 6 months to release it instead of a weekend. That's something else that's pretty interesting. Oh, nice. Somebody clarified MERN, MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. That is a fantastic stack. Thank you for clarifying that one. Do I like Golang? Haven't used it enough to say yes or no. Initially, it seems very promising, and it seems like a lot of people are liking it. Somebody said, I feel like Flask gives you more freedom as a framework. Django is too restrictive. I couldn't disagree more with you on that. Either one can do either thing for the most part, right? There are some things that it can't do, but there's a lot of things that it absolutely can. So whatever Flask can do, Django can most likely do as well, except Django has a lot of things built into it. You can always take a lot of those pieces off. You don't have to use the things that Django has built into it. So yeah, I would argue they both can eventually accomplish the exact same thing. It's just how much work do you want to do to get all of that. Pipeline, thank you for the super chat. Hi, Justin, can you give advice for programming small YouTubers how to grow a channel in a decent pace? Yes. I can try to give you advice, but I actually don't know how to do it in a fast pace. Because if you look at my channel, I started it either in 2013 when I started coding for entrepreneurs, or early 2014. And the reason my channel had any momentum whatsoever was because I did two other things, which was Kickstarter and Udemy. So way back then, Udemy, like it was taking off at the time, right? It's very early in Udemy's history. And so I was able to really piggyback in many ways. Coding for Entrepreneurs was able to piggyback off of what I did with Udemy. So now let's translate this into today. Like if I was going to start a channel today, what would I do? Well, first and foremost, I would do my best to make as small of videos as possible, right? You want to make them as small as possible and also make as long as possible. So 12-hour courses, if you can do those things, they're a lot easier to share. And, you know, like, hey, I got a 12-hour course on Django and React. Here it is. Go watch it. It gets a lot of momentum that way. Really small as possible so that the ones that you actually convert to fans that want to see everything will then actually watch a lot of those videos as well. Because the goal should actually not be to get a ton of followers. The goal should be getting the right quality of followers, to get the right people watching your stuff. So even if you only have 1,000 subscribers, well, or even 100 or 10, well, if 5 of those subscribers are Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Mark Cuban, and like Tim Ferriss, right there, that's like, who else would you want to watch it if you are geared towards their kind of content, right? So I really think it's about the right followers, not necessarily a ton of followers. And I think my channel and my career is a really good example of that. I know there's plenty of other YouTubers out there that teach programming in a similar way I do, that have far more subscribers, right? But you know, I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy the ones that I have because I get great questions like this. And look, I mean, right now I have 50 viewers on here. It's not like 150,000 people are watching this right now. That's all of my subscribers, right? So start small. Just find your own niche and your own voice. You gotta speak it in the way that you actually would. Dennis does this really well himself. He has his own niche of people that like what he watches. Dennis Ivey, he was talking earlier, and people like his style. People like my style. Some people do, not everybody, obviously. Some people say I talk way too fast, which probably is true. But you got to find something that works for the style and just experiment until you actually get where you want to go. So thanks for the question and for the super chat. Okay, cool. Yes, and let's see. Gambo Master, I know how you fast pace it and just make a video for Traversing Media. Yeah, I mean, actually posting on other YouTubers' channels definitely will help you grow. So if you can convince some of them, then yeah, for sure. But I really think that being narrow and focused and providing value for other people is the way you end up doing it. Because, you know, any YouTuber, if you like Pipeline, if you just hit me up and said, "Hey, can I post a video on your channel?" Well, look at my channel. I don't think I've ever posted anyone else's content, right? So not every channel is going to do that, right? So you can't just pitch somebody who's never heard of you, or pitch someone who isn't necessarily reaching out to you. Like I have a video on Free Code Camp. They hit me up and they was like, "Hey, can we post this on Free Code Camp?" Absolutely. Like I think it's a great way to help other people. So yeah, hopefully that helps. The other thing is curating content. You totally can do that, Pipeline. If you want to grow your channel, like Free Code Camp. Free Code Camp does this really well, is they curate other people's content. Of course, they get permission first. And that is actually how they're able to grow their channel. And if they want to start having their own courses, which they probably already do, they definitely could, you know what I mean? So yeah. GT, what did you say? Use the Gary Vee model, more content more often. I would add to that, more content more often, but also maybe better content, just like constantly honing your content, because more is not always better. I really believe that. Like if I did a video every day, I'm sure some people would really like it, but I would get very exhausted from it, to where then I believe my content would probably suffer, because I'm just trying to get through it then. And that's like my biggest enemy. I don't want to get through content. I want to make content. I want to create as best content as I can. So Gary Vee just walks around, has someone recording him, but the guy can talk for days. He's like really happy if he talks for 14 hours a day. That's just not my personality. I don't want to talk that much. So yeah. Pipeline is one of the best Django channels on YouTube. Oh wow, that's cool. Look at that. Asche. That's quite a some props there, Pipeline. Are you I should check out your YouTube channel right now. Let's see here. Cool. Oh, and you're friends with, are you friends with Daniel, well, Fieldroy now, but Daniel Greenfield? I'm not sure if he actually makes his, made his own, or or change his last name or not. But Pipeline, that is nice of you to say, but I think just keeping up what it is that you're doing is a good idea. All right, guys. So I gotta hop off here, but thanks for everyone who came out, and thanks for all the super chats. I'll see you guys next time. I got my family calling.